Welcome back to the Brotagonists podcast. I am your bro host, Mason.
And I'm your bro host, Carter. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Brotagonists podcast where Mason and I are going to break down a book for you, have a couple fun segments. And this week's episode is the culmination of a couple episodes we've had on the Bloodsworn trilogy. This is the third book, The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. And let's see, we'll show you what his signature looks like, not to show off, but there's the man's signature himself, John Gwynne. We love this trilogy, and this book is just such a great conclusion. And he does such a great job. One of our favorite authors just based off of this trilogy alone. And there's still so many more books to read. But after that, we're going to get into a new little game. We're calling it the over-under segment. We might come up with a better name for it later on, but that will be a fun thing. And then we will send you off with another Weapon of Wisdom, a weekly segment. Fan favorite, we like to think. And Mason has that prepared for us. And that will do it for today's episode, and you'll have to wait a whole nother week to hear from your favorite podcasters. So that's sad for you guys. It's sad for us, but that's just how it is. So we're going to get into this. Mason, we're on to what we're reading this week, and I need to hear from you. What are you reading this week? What did you read? What are you on to? And how's it going?
So I finished Dungeon Crawler Carl 2, Carl's Doomsday Parade. Is that
Scenario.
Doomsday Scenario, and it was really good. I thought it was about the same quality as the first one. It was shorter. I was surprised, but it seemed kind of like a filler book, almost like a connecting book to get to the next part. But it was good. It had the same classic funny parts to it, and it was very enjoyable. And I'm excited to see where this keeps going and see Carl and Donut grow as crawlers in the dungeon. That's always a fun book to read. And now I'm on to your recommendation to me for the year. For those that don't know, Carter, another friend of ours, Jordan, and I have a yearly book recommendation that we have to read, recommended by the other two. And this one for me is Gates of Fire, Story of Thermopylae by Stephen Pressfield. And I'm just getting started. I'm just probably like 5 or 6 chapters in, and it's been interesting so far. It's I don't know if I'm a fan of the story so far being told from a perspective that's not actually a Spartan, but it's still been good.
I think the point there is like it had to be told from somebody that didn't die, and all 300 Spartans died. So I think that's the idea there. But yeah, it's a lot less of the actual battle in that book than you would think, but it gets there. And I see what you mean. It didn't really hook me at the beginning either, just so you know.
Yeah. But it's been solid. I'm excited to keep going. I love the movie 300 and the story of Thermopylae. I wish I was super jacked and tough like a Spartan, but I'm not. What are you reading, Carter?
Yeah, don't we all wish that? What do they have, like 5% body fat? And
Probably was.
it's crazy. So yeah, anyway, I finished the Giver Quartet this week. The last book is called Son, S-O-N, and it's the culmination of that series. The 3 books after the Giver just take on a completely different route than you would imagine, but it's all tied up really nicely, and they're hard books to describe, where there's lessons in there that are simple ideas told in a simple way, but it kind of makes you think about it, and I'm still thinking about it. Very hard to describe, but very thought-provoking, and I would say that they are books that better you, and hopefully all books do that, but these ones, they cut to the core, so that was good. And I never remembered the finale of that series, and that was kind of the reason I wanted to read the whole thing again anyway, so I'm glad I did that. It was really good. And they're short books. And then a couple days ago, I started the Fellowship of the Ring because I need to read The Lord of the Rings again. I think it was so long ago that I read it that it's like hard for me to distinguish what's movie and what's book. So I finished the Fellowship of the Ring last night and started the Two Towers today, and that's where we're at. So Merry and Pippin are in Fangorn Forest, and the Ents are having their Ent moot to decide what to do with Isengard and Saruman, and that's where we're at. That's really interesting, and actually it made me appreciate the movie, how well they depicted the chase of Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas trying to track down Merry and Pippin, and That they did a really good job filming that, but there are some differences towards the end when you get to the Riders of Rohan killing the host of orcs and Uruk-hai and how Merry and Pippin exactly entered the forest. But it's very, very minute details that are different and very good, so that's been fun. That's been so we'll get the Two Towers read this week, and I'll get on to Andy Serkis, his narration of
His is so good. You gotta get to it.
yeah, and I saw that we didn't have his Two Towers or his Fellowship, so I'm still reading the ones that we own of that, and then I know that we have the Andy Serkis, Return of the King, so I'm gonna see the difference there and how much better apparently his narration is that you said.
Yeah. So speaking of Andy Serkis, I told you I went to go see the Young Washington movie this 4th of July weekend, but he was in it. I was kind of surprised to see him in a movie like that. And he was a British general. And to be honest, he actually brought a good amount of humor into the movie and he did really good. Like he had some good lines. He's just a really good actor, like such range and all the things he can do. And so,
Yeah, he has quite the range. It even makes me think of his Wakanda his, Black Panther villain.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's in the Age of Ultron Avengers, right?
Yeah,
So
he's in the Age of Ultron. He's in Black Panther. He's Snoke in the sequel trilogy of Star Wars.
yeah. Yeah, he is one of those unique voices and talents. Wide range there. Well, that was a good, reading week, and that brings us to the book breakdown for The Fury of the Gods, the 3rd book in the Bloodsworn trilogy, and it is a good one. It's a banger, as they say. Could be the best one in the series. We're gonna talk about it. Mason, I think, thinks it is, but we're gonna get to that. Mason, why don't you start us off with the synopsis for this book?
Sure, Carter. All right. Fury of the Gods is an explosive conclusion to John Gwynne's Bloodsworn trilogy. As ancient powers awaken and the fate of the world hangs in balance, warriors, monsters, and gods are drawn toward one final conflict. Long-standing rivalries, hard-won friendships, and deeply personal quests all converge in an epic finale filled with brutal battles, emotional character moments, and the themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and vengeance that define the series. Gwynne delivers a fast paced, Norse inspired fantasy that brings the trilogy to a powerful and satisfying conclusion.
Amen. That's a great synopsis. This book, I think, does such a good job. It really ties up all those loose ends the first 2 novels are building towards, like a conclusion should, but so many have kind of not completed the task. This one delivers, and immediately you can judge a trilogy off of its conclusion, basically, and this one is amazing, and the whole series. But where do we want to start, Mason? We want to talk characters? We want to talk plot points? What do we want to do here?
So I think there's like 2 plot points we need to bring up at the very beginning that are kind of central to this book, and they're very different plot points. The first is Orca's story is kind of left on a cliffhanger in Hunger of the Gods. And so we have to address what's happening with Orca. How does she make her escape? Does she get back with her son? And then we have to go to Elvar's plot because this is another big thing that was hinted at in the second book as well is what is she going to do about the thralls where she is kind of becoming to the point where everyone's recognizing it's not ethical to slave these people just because that they have god blood in their veins and all these people that are around her that she doesn't even know have it and she has the fear if she frees all her slaves they're going to leave if she keeps them she's in the wrong and she's just as bad as what they're trying to replace and so we have an ethical dilemma and then we have action sequence of how does Orca escape. I think that is 2 good combinations for this book.
Well, let's start off with Orca and how we find out what's happening there in the beginning of the 3rd book. So at the end of the 2nd book, she's kind of left dying, and we don't know what's going to happen. Pretty much we know she's a main character, and she's going to be in the 3rd book. So it's not much of a spoiler to say that she's in the 3rd book.
Okay, I will say, when I finished Hunger of the Gods, I straight up thought she was dead.
Okay.
And I straight up thought she was dead. And we have, 3 other points of views we're reading. And so I was like, oh, that's a bummer, but I think we'll get to see more of her son in the next book. And then
Okay.
I was surprised when the first chapter is Orca, but
Yeah. almost like John Gwynne's trying to like say sorry to his readers for doing what he did in the second book. Like, okay, wait,
She's still here.
yeah, the yeah, I don't know the frost spiders. That makes me think of the frost spiders and just how terrifying they are.
Yeah, just like an army of Shelobs, basically.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. The frost spider just it'll is it its bite or its sting that will inject cold into your veins.
I think it's the sting.
I think it's the sting. Yeah. And what is it? It keeps you alive but slows down your system enough because they like to eat you alive or something like that.
Yeah.
My gosh. It's horrifying.
And what's fun about Orca is everything with her is the most violent chapters you're gonna get and the most intense. And so you know when she's gonna make her escape or go for it, she's really gonna go for it.
I actually really enjoyed the violence and revenge arc of Varg in the Bloodsworn. Before that, everything kind of culminates at the end, which those scenes are really good with all three characters. But I liked the kind of leading up chapters to getting to the final conflict and all the revenge happening over there. That was cool. And I know he doesn't fully get his revenge until the final conflict, but kind of completing their is Glornir the leader of the Bloodsworn, right?
Mhm.
So kind of finding his wife again is really cool and violent. So, but yeah, so Orca first chapter of the Fury of the Gods and basically lets us know she's alive. We knew she'd be alive. She's like apparently not all of us, but she's like the most BA person ever. And how is she not going to survive? But actually, yeah, I had the thought she might be dead for a minute, but I didn't let it take hold of my heart. I started the maybe it's because I started the third book like right after just to make sure. So it's hard for me to separate the two. But you're right. It did seem like maybe she did put her life down to save, and her only like her basically her purpose was to save her son and get him off on the boat. So I see what you mean. I'm not judging you.
You feel
I'm the one that always falls for the where the author's trying to lead me. I'm the one that always falls for the plot twist.
so we have the Orca revenge escape arc and finding her son. We have the Varg revenge arc, and then we have the Elvar revenge arc, and she's also out for blood against Bior because she betrayed them and led to Agnar's death. And so everyone's out for revenge in this book except for Guthvar. I don't know why we get so many Guthvar chapters. That's my biggest complaint about the book. And you're just like, every time you're reading his chapter, please die. I hate you. Please die.
Getting to Elvar, talking about the whole slave conflict. What do you have to say about that?
It's one of those things where the decision is so hard because she could easily make that justification of, well, if I win this conflict, then I can free them, even though she knows it's not right. And she's wanting to inspire loyalty. And she wants to let them free. And her whole situation with Gren and what happens between them is really significant in her decision making. And she has a lot to think about of what her morals are as a person. And I think she knows what she needs to do, but she doesn't want to do it or she fears what could happen from it.
Yeah, and on Elvar becoming kind of the leader that she was meant to be from the beginning, she's kind of being groomed the whole time by Agnar, and then she becomes the leader of what do they call themselves?
Battlegrim.
The Battle Grim. She becomes their leader in the first book, but through challenge, right? She's challenged and she has to fight and
At
win
the beginning of the second book,
at the
yeah.
beginning of the second book. So she becomes the leader, but it was through force, through, wielding and swinging an axe. And this whole time, she becomes kind of a more and more of a leader of this growing conflict. And when you see that her view on this kind of slavery is not lining up with the leader that you think she is, you kind of feel like, oh, how is she going to figure this out? And then going through this book, you really see her trying to unite people that don't trust each other. And as they're preparing for, the biggest war the world's ever seen, but she goes from this warrior swinging the axe and trying to take power to becoming this leader that she was meant to be and someone actually worthy of leading armies. And that was a cool arc. And for lack of a better adjective there.
Yeah, I think I told you before in one of our previous episodes that Elvira's arc was actually my favorite arc, and I always wish that she had a little bit more time. I feel like that Orca and Varg's arc got a little bit more time than than hers.
I think putting myself in John Gwynn's shoes, it was probably just so much more fun to write Varg and Orca, whereas Elvar's was probably pretty challenging to come up because there was more complex issues that she was having to deal with, and they weren't as straightforward or bloody, and that's probably just looking at it from the outside why. But you're right. You could have more Elvar there, especially since she ends up making the most difference in the final conflict. And the Goothvar chapters, I see what you mean. They can kind of get to you, and the whole time you're just like, this guy is so unlikable.
I know, just like from like the fourth chapter of book one, you think he's gonna die, and he just won't die.
It's yeah, but I mean, this book is so hard to talk about without giving spoilers, and I know we might have given away a couple, but it's just so epic, and the scale is so grand, especially everything he's trying to do, fit it all into this book. I think he hit a home run trying to do it, and I know that when we talked about this series in the past, you've said one thing is like, there's so much in this world. This world's so big that you wish that it answered more questions. And my retort has been, but it kind of leaves the world open. But I see both sides, and it kind of keeps you thinking about it and like, what if, fill in the gaps yourself. But yeah, there's just so much that you do wish that was answered. But I feel like all the important, or at least arcs and plot points, are resolved pretty neatly with a cherry on top.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, things get tied up pretty well. I was very satisfied with the conclusion of the trilogy. Definitely got some good heartbreaks in there. You have a lot of things you want to see, and you even had a little twist towards the end. And there's a few other things I want to ask you about this book. But before we get too far ahead, I want to hear your 1 minute elevator pitch for Fury of the Gods.
My 1 minute elevator pitch. Well, let's see. I got to get my book. I got to hold it for inspiration right here. And by the way, I was always thinking, when is this? The first three books, the first one has a dragon on it. And I was like, where's the dragon? The whole book until the very end. And then the second one has a big wolf on it. And you kind of get the idea there. And this one has a big serpent on it. And I was like, the whole book, where is this huge serpent that looks like it's going to be such a huge part of the book? And then finally, but it is such a twist there. But you know it's coming because all the covers. But anyway, sidetracked. Mason, my 1 minute elevator pitch for The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne is exactly what I want out of an epic fantasy finale. John Gwynne, he takes everything he's been building over the first two books and just lets it loose. And the battles are massive. The action is relentless. And there's a dragon, there's monsters, there's gods, and some of the coolest fight scenes I've probably ever read and probably ever will read. That's something John Gwynne does exceptionally well, is action sequences. But what really makes it work is the character work. And I think Elvar's perspective is a strong point there, as we've talked about. But by this point, we've spent so much time with them at every victory and loss that it's hard. The battle hits hard, and like their outcomes really affect you if you're emotionally invested in the first two books. And the thing about the action in this book, even though it is heavy-handed, it's never just for the sake of action. I think we've talked about that before. It all matters and it all equates to something. It's not just action for the love of action. But you should read this book if you love Norse mythology, you love combat, and you love stories even about loyalty and love and family, and especially stories about revenge and vengeance. But this finale is one of the most satisfying finales I've read in a long time, and John Gwynne absolutely sticks the landing. And that's my 1 minute elevator pitch for Fury of the Gods.
I really like it. A lot of the gods in these books have such interesting personalities and characteristics. I think we talked about this last time, that we really liked Ulfir. We thought that he was a really good character that got added in book two as the wolf god. Who were some other of the gods that you liked and appreciated?
I actually liked the introduction and role of Rata, and how you're kind of, I thought the combination of Leek Rifa and Rota was really scary, because by herself, Leek Rifa is obviously terrifying and smart, but she kind of lets her emotions rule. And Rata, I don't know how to say it. How do you say it?
Rota.
All right. And Rota is cunning and has been surviving for all these years. And he kind of brings that scary intelligence to the planning process. And if his plan had worked out, this book, it would have been over for the good guys with his plan with Snaka right here. But Lee Krifa, has her part to play, and I like Rota. Yeah, even though I hate him, I hate him, but because he's the rat god, and he really, yeah, he's a little rat, and
I think it's funny how afraid of Ulfir he is.
yeah, I mean, if you're a rat, you're gonna be scared of a wolf, right?
Yeah. Well, Ulfir like was dripping snake venom on him for hundreds of years and was torturing him. And
Yeah. I liked the demigod Ulfrir's daughter, something with an S. I'm forgetting what it is. Selka or
well,
no? Scald. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Scald. I kind of wish that the first two of her sisters were still in this, the other two sisters were still in the story so we could figure out more about them, but spoiler there. And then, but I like Scald. She's cool, like the red angel wings, basically. And I liked the eagle god.
Orna.
I liked Orna, and I liked the story between Ulfrir and Orna, and the conflict with her and Leek Rifa was amazing. Unexpected. That was definitely unexpected. But the only thing I do wish is like maybe a couple more of the gods were came like I really wanted to see the bear god, and but they just weren't important to the story that was happening. So, but yeah, what about you? What was your kind of highlighted?
It's all about Ulfir. I really was intrigued by Snaka, the introduction to him and just like the fear and intensity that he added to everything. And I do think he was a little underutilized. And I know we don't like to do this, but I have to have a spoiler section for just a second because it's one of my critiques of this book. And I think it's pretty worthwhile talking about. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers for this book, and light spoilers for the second book. Skip ahead 5 minutes
All
because
right, let's hear it.
we need to talk about this. So Rota's plan is they need to resurrect Snaka so that they could kill him and eat his heart and take his powers, which was originally the plan to do with Orna when Likrifa killed her.
Right. He's like, "Where's your heart?"
And there's like just no answer, and Likrifa doesn't ever give an answer, and it's like, okay, guys, like
She's like, I shredded her up, like, ha ha ha. It's so hilarious, you know?
and we're just like, okay, like it didn't even say like you shredded the heart. It was you didn't. She's just like there just like wasn't an answer, and I feel like that's a pretty big plot hole.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it didn't really like Lee Grifa like wouldn't give an answer
I
about
thought
it,
I
and
thought
that's
she
why
was
they had to. That's why they had to resurrect Snaka because they're like, if we can't beat Ulfir ourselves, we need to resurrect him and eat the heart. And Rota the whole time was so annoyed. He's like, we had this plan, and I'm just like, yeah, I think they even might have mentioned, like, even if we just have part of it, we yeah, and there's, like, there's nothing left. There's not even a little like, to me, that was such a big plot hole. Like, I could see, like, Leek Rifa going crazy and, like, losing track of it in the moment, and like, maybe someone carries it off and hides it, but we never get that explanation. It's just, "Yeah, I don't know. Guess we'll resurrect Snaka now."
I thought that it did mention that she was just kind of what I had thought was she kinda gets into, like, a blood frenzy, like sharks, basically, and when she gets into her battle frenzy, and then she was just kinda uncontrollably shredding Orna to death.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
sh obviously,
To
as a
me, that's the
god,
to me,
you
that's a pretty weak
I
explanation.
totally I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
And then so we resurrect Snaka, which is super cool, but we don't get him for very long. I love the whole plot of Leek Rifa and Rota together can't beat Ulfir because he's just that smart and ruthless and cunning. And I really love that where there's like, all right, we're bringing in the big guns to have the big guns not do anything really. Like
Yeah.
there was like an original devastation, but then
But you have to remember the whole original fall of the gods was because they were fighting amongst each other, and Snaka being so evil toward all of his children was one of the reasons that they were so scared of him, and that I think they were too scared. They knew that he wanted to rule, so they couldn't use him. They knew that if they kept him alive, he was gonna use them instead of them using him,
right.
and she wanted to be queen.
I just feel like it would have been nice to have a little bit more. Just like have him be in a battle, like have him fight Ulfir or something. We just get like an original devastation from him. We don't really see him in
Yeah.
conflict at all.
And the crazy thing is how good John Gwynne did, making him seem even more scary than Lee Grifa, which is one of the most impossible things that I've ever seen an
Yeah.
author do. So,
Yeah, it was but like you said, the intimidation factor was there. Snaka was like a good villain, intimidating. Yeah, but that's like my big complaint with this book.
what happened to the heart?
Remember, they see what they're trying to do. Ulfur sees what they're trying to do, and they attack and stop it. Basically,
Yes, right. Right, of course, now I remember. Wow, what a crazy scene.
yeah,
Anyway, spoiler section
pleaded.
completed. Boy, are is there anything else that you have to talk about? Because I'm kind of thinking we need to rank the book. I know there's a lot to talk about, but just like the last time we did this, this is one of those books that's very difficult to talk about besides our synopsis and elevator pitch without spoiling so much.
Something that I really like about this book, not to reveal too much, is I felt like everyone was given a relatively satisfying ending, where I didn't really have a complaint about where everyone ended up. Even minor characters like Bior, Guthvar, everyone ended up in a place where he's like, okay, that makes sense. Given their arc, that makes sense that this is where they end up.
Yeah. It is satisfying to, like, feel like there's somewhat of a happy ending sometimes, and people's stories end up where you want them to be. A couple of the revenge sequences I felt like were slightly too drawn out, like, they took too long to happen, like, you'd have to come into battle against the same person that you have a vendetta against 3 separate times for you to finally get him, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
that's it.
Also, before we rank this book, I need to ask if you were in this world, what kind of a god touch would you want to be?
I'd wanna be, Ulfethnar. Well, actually, I mean, a dragonborn would be pretty cool, obviously, because they seem a little bit overpowered somehow. But Ulfethnar would be sweet. But I don't think you would even have a choice. I think you're just a berserker automatically. You.
Me? I'm
Yeah.
a Berserker.
What would you want to be?
I don't know, I think the Wolfethnar are pretty cool. I love like the whole pack mentality that Ulfir has with all the Wolfethnar.
I gotcha. I just imagine you as a berserker. But I think that, yeah, the
I'll
Ulfethnar.
take it. I'll take it as long as I'm just not a rat.
The fox was pretty cool. The fox god and the eagle was pretty cool. But there's not a
Almost like
lot
a
of.
prequel book to see like the fall of the gods.
There needs to be. There needs to be. Have you seen his new book that's coming out?
No, I haven't.
It's called The Wolves of War.
Is it separate than like the Faithful and the Fallen and the Bloodsworn?
I believe so. I think it's a standalone. If I am not wrong, I haven't looked into it enough, but the cover is sweet. Anyway, Wolves of War, everyone. That's another John Gwynne novel that's coming out. We'll have to do more research on it so we can tell you about it. You want to rank the book?
Yeah, just one really quick thing. I believe that there was a slight delay in writing this book because didn't John Gwynne, was it John Gwynne's daughter or wife that passed away before he?
I think you know more than I do about this. I don't know anything.
Let me,
Yeah.
yeah. So his daughter Harriet died in 2021.
Oh, that's so sad.
And when, I don't know when this book came out.
Book came out in 2024.
So, for those that don't know, there was a slight delay in writing this book because John Gwynne lost his daughter Harriet a couple years before this book was published. And I really like his dedication at the front of this book, as it probably family became something very important, even more important to him as he had to write this book, probably dealing with a lot of sorrow. It says, for my family, for Harriet, loved beyond words, for Caroline, the air I breathe, for James, Ed, and Will, my beating heart, we have been through hell together, the bonds of love and family holding us up.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That's something so hard for a parent to go through and to have to go back to work and deliver such a great product is, a testament to how great John Gwynne is. And, thoughts and prayers always with him as that grief never really goes away.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Pretty devastating too. I like that. I didn't actually know that. I hadn't read the forward.
Yeah, I think it was actually at the end of the audiobook where there's like a talk about it. But anyways, I think we've talked about a lot of things. We can get into rating this book now.
I see on Goodreads that this book was an 8.9, so there's something to keep in mind. We ranked The Shadow of the Gods, the first book in this series, an 8.5. We ranked the second book, The Hunger of the Gods, an 8.8. I personally ranked this book a 9.4. So I think in my opinion, this book is a little bit. I actually enjoyed The Hunger of the Gods more, barely, but we came up with an 8.8, and I know that you like this book a little better, and I think the 8.9 is appropriate, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I've always ranked these books a little bit lower than you. Like I think the first two books I gave like maybe an 8.0 and an 8.2 or like both 8.2s, which looking back with some of the things I've ranked above it, I could probably give them higher rankings. That's, the protagonist score got lifted up for those. This one I gave an 8.7, kind of for like those major plot hole, like at least what I viewed as a major plot hole. And then a couple of things I wish were just like slightly better, like a little bit more snacka. That being said, I think mine can definitely come up. I thought ours would average out a little bit. I see this in the 8.9 to 9 range. And so and here's where our rankings get me is because I definitely enjoy this book a lot more than Project Hail Mary, which we gave a 9.
I was fighting for it.
I don't think this book is quite as good as Sword of Kaigen, even though I think it's really, really close. And I also don't know if it's as good as probably right there with Golden Sun at the 8.9, but I still like both of those better than Project Hail Mary.
I think we need to re-rank the Sword of Kaigen eventually, but that's a topic for another time. Do you want to go 8.9 for this book or 9? I'm happy with either. I'm not even going to fight you on it. I'm just going to let you choose.
I don't know. The thing is that the only thing that's keeping me from putting it at a 9 is that we put Golden Sun.
Don't think about books that we might have to re-rank in the future.
Actually, I'm confident this book made the Protagonist top 10. I'm saying 9.
9. I think if it's in the Protagonist top 10, it might have to be a 9.
And we ranked it above Golden Sun there. And if we're putting Project Hail Mary at a 9, this book's got to get a 9.
I agree. Protagonists. The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne has received an official protagonist ranking of 9.0. Fury of the Gods 9.0 official protagonist rating. And that's a wrap on ranking this book.
And this is the first series that we have finished discussing and ranking on the Protagonist podcast.
Right. That is right. That brings us, Mason, to our very new and next segment, the over-under segment. So we're going to have to come up with a prompt because we didn't want to have any time to prepare. We're going to have to come up with a prompt so that one of us doesn't have the edge on the other of kind of thinking about it before we film. So what do you want the prompt to be?
So I'm just going to explain a little bit more about the game. So just to explain how this will go is we'll come up with a prompt, something like I can name 2 characters that can beat Orca in a fight. And if Carter thinks that he can name more, he could say, I could name 3 that can beat Orca in a fight. And then I could call them out and say, name them, or I could say, I can do 4. And once we get to a point where we don't think we can go anymore, let's say it's 5, and it's me, I have to name 5 characters. And if I can't name 5 characters that beat Orca in a fight, then I lose. But if I can, Carter loses. And the winner of this game gets to pick the first book that someone has to read at the beginning of next year.
The first book. Perfect.
So that'll be a fun game for us. It was supposed to be the person had to do dumbbell curls until the very end, but neither one of us have a dumbbell currently. But in the future, protagonists, keep your eyes out for the dumbbell to make its way out. But yeah, now please give us a brief moment while we come up with a prompt for this.
The dumbbell stayed in the home gym and not in the studio. I'll have to bring one. All right, Mason, let's figure this out.
Okay, protagonist. Carter decided he liked the made-up prompt that I came with. So who could beat Orca in a fight? The key to this is she cannot go wolf, and none of these other people can use their powers of any kind because we're not just doing Bloodsworn. We are doing any fantasy book that we have read, a character that can beat Orca in a fight.
So how many characters could beat Orca in a duel without using basically powers? Okay. And the loser gets a book put on their TBR for the first book of the year next year. Okay. Fair enough. Let's do it. Let's start off with 1. I'll say 1.
I could name 3.
I could name 5.
I could name 6.
I think I could name 7, actually. These are from books that we've both read.
I could name 8.
Can the other characters use their weapon of choice? Yes.
It can't be a gun.
Right. Of course. Okay. As long as it's
it has to be like weapons from the same era.
Yeah. I could name 9.
I could name 10.
Okay. These characters though can't just be like they have to at least be talked about a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like it can't be Red Rising. Like you can't name all the knights, but you could name a couple of them if you know if it's talked. Okay, I could. You said 10. Okay, I will say BS on that.
Okay.
Give them to me.
Okay. Well, I feel like a lot of them are gonna be from Red Rising, but
Okay, obviously you're gonna say Darrow, Cassius,
yeah,
Diomedes. You're gonna say Arcos. You're gonna say what's her name kills Ragnar.
Aja.
Aja. You're gonna say maybe Apollonius.
I actually wasn't gonna include Apollonius. I was gonna include Ragnar, actually.
All right, I'll give you one of those two.
I'll do Ragnar.
All right, that's 6.
That's just from Red
Okay.
Rise.
All right, that's all you can have from that series.
Okay. Can I get a Hadrian Marlowe?
Yes, especially in the later books. Yes, but maybe not without using his powers. Orc is pretty crazy, but sure. I mean,
We can
he
have
never
him as a maybe. We can have him as a maybe.
he's a maybe without he kind of develops some powers later on in the book that like make him basically undefeatable.
But you can't use powers.
You can't use powers, so
And you also can't use a Lauren's sword.
right. Can't use a lightsaber, huh? Yeah, it has to be a blade. It has to be a blade. And that doesn't really count, even though it's called a high matter blade, but no.
I'm gonna put the maybe symbol next to him.
All right, I'll go maybe on him just because I love him.
Can I get a Drist Jordan?
That was the one I was thinking about. That was who I was thinking about. I would have been mad if you said no to Drist. So yes, to Drist. Does that also mean you're going to put Zachnafane?
I actually didn't even think of Zach Nafane. Thank you for the suggestion.
I shouldn't have helped you, but
Because Zach's better than.
Zach's kind of better, isn't he? But probably not by the end of the series. I think Drist will probably overtake him eventually. But anyway,
Can I get a Geralt of Rivia?
that'd be a good battle. But we already put Drist versus Geralt. So, and he's the main character of the series. So I'll give you Geralt, but I'm not going to give you Hadrian actually with no powers.
So I'm at 9. I need one more.
You need one more.
And am I allowed to keep going until I find them, or as soon as I get one wrong, are you gonna?
No, yeah, you can. We'll talk about him. Yeah, let's talk about him.
All right.
Nobody in Bloodsworn beats her. She's the skull splitter.
No one that's not a god. Because I'd make an argument that Ulfir and Likrifa could beat her.
Right. Yes, of course.
But I'll leave those out of this. Can I get a Legolas?
Not with blades. Don't you think? I mean, his weapon of choice is a bow and arrow. I know he's good with blades, and he might be able to take her down. But maybe it's a maybe, but it's not a for sure. So that's like a whole debate. And I think if it's a huge debate, then it's probably a maybe.
Okay. Can I get the Spearman Kaladin Stormblessed?
Ooh, that's tough. I don't think you get Kaladin, but you might get Dalinar. Or no, you don't get you get Adolin for sure.
Thanks for giving them to me. I was just gonna keep going.
You get Adolin.
Wait, what? Well, here's one without you giving me anything. Alan Mandragoran.
He probably gets her, but it's hard to. I mean, yeah, he does. He knows all the like he's a master swordsman, right? But Orca, dude, she's the best fighter in her whole planet.
Or what about Tom?
It makes me think that I was gonna say Tom, probably, right? Yeah.
Tom. You gotta give it to Tom. I still think Kaladin would smoke her, but to make it an obvious one for the last one, Tom.
Tom. And probably nobody in Mistborn because there's not really blades,
Yeah, Vin's too fragile, and Orca's a beast.
Yeah, but you know what? This gives me good ideas for our next competition.
Right. So that means I get to pick your book.
Yeah, you do. So that's one more book you get to add to my list.
I already have it in mind if we want to announce.
What is it?
You have to read first book of the year next year, The Elfstones of Shannara. I think you'll actually like it.
All right. No, I'm glad to be forced to read that. Shannara. Not a bad punishment. Not a bad punishment. Elfstones of Shannara, first book of the year, 2027. I'll be a gracious loser. Good work. Yeah, I think maybe 6 people from the same series. I think like Razor Masters just kind of, I didn't really think, I was thinking that after I said that to 10, I said there's like 8 Razor Masters that you could talk about in the Red Rising. Plus Ragnar. So I was like, okay, well, I was
There's
kind of
also, we haven't even talked about Paul Atreides or.
Yeah, true.
Or a bunch of, or anyone from sort of Kaigan or. there's a
Misaki would have taken her down, but does an ice blade count? Probably.
used to be water bending, but Masaki didn't really do a ton of
No,
that technique.
you're right. Takeru would have the
Takeru,
one
the
the one
whispering blade.
Yep. Alright, well, that's a tough one because you have to think about so many characters and series. Probably nobody in Aragon.
No, not without their powers.
Trying to think.
I think she would smoke everyone in Chorus of Dragons.
Yes, easily, easily. Orca's such a cool character, man. I forgot to wear my Orca shirt today. I'm mad about it.
I am wearing my Glonier shirt.
Okay, you
What
win
ab
the first.
what about Thorko?
Mm. I still think no. I mean, I think she was the leader of the battle of the Bloodsworn for a reason.
Yeah. Who was the guy that she was fighting to get her son back?
The Dragonborn guy,
Yeah, what was his name
and
again?
she beat him. So it was
Eventually, but he beat her in the first book.
what with a D.
Dreka. Yeah, that's what it was. A lot of names.
Zach McFinger. These are all good. The one I'm iffy on, like I know there's a lot more we talked about, so you obviously won. I'm iffy on Geralt because he is just absolutely he gets beat a few times in that series, and I think Orca would be one of the ones that beats him.
He hasn't gotten beat in
Yeah, I
the
know.
books I've read so far, but I know
I'm
you've
just
seen the TV series.
the TV show that I've gone far enough. I've just seen him get absolutely humiliated, but somebody was kind of using magic against him, so that's not really fair. Anyway, Mason, that brings us to our next segment, the Weapon of Wisdom, which you're in charge of this week. So I'm excited to gain a little bit of wisdom.
Yep. And as always, this section is sponsored by Moe's Seafood and Chowder, delivering world famous clam chowder to the Oregon coast for over 80 years. I think we have the same hat on. Yours looks newer and shinier than mine.
We'll have to fix that. You have to come
I,
visit me.
yeah, I just got my tan one from you, so you don't need to get me any more swag. And I have a bunch of Moe's hoodies. My quote today is from this book, Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. And it says, "Courage is just a reaction to fear. You cannot show courage without first feeling fear. And if you don't feel fear towards something, you're not really showing courage. It's just doing any other task." And a lot of people think that courage is the absence of fear, but it's the ability to keep going even when you are feeling fear or anxiety or anything that's kind of, that negative response to a situation. And this could be the courage can be to just get up one more day and go to work and do your best. And we're not all, spearmen in an epic story, but we're all people that have our own challenges. And some days those things that cause fear or anxiety in our lives can feel like a lot. And I believe that we all have the capacity to have the courage to take the next step and to keep moving forward. And I like this quote that courage is a reaction to fear. And I think we should choose courage over giving in to the fear. And that's my weapon of wisdom.
I really did gain some wisdom from that. It was great. I like that it doesn't say like don't be afraid, but like lean into the courage that comes from fear as an option. So that's great. Back to the Mariners. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. All of our fellow protagonists out there. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for liking and all the stuff you do to help us out. We're really trying to build a fun community here where we can talk about books and give you recommendations and talk about the wonderful privilege it is to read and experience stories together. And that's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this because we needed an outlet for it, and hopefully you guys can join in on it with us. So thanks for listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, watching on YouTube or listening on YouTube, and for helping us out in all the ways that you can. So thank you so much. Thanks for being here for episode 27, the Fury of the Gods episode, and we will see you next week.
Stay classy. Thank you guys. So smash that subscribe button.